Welcome back to another episode of Sexy Marriage Radio. And alongside my wife, Pam.
Always good to be here.
Each and every week. Straightforward conversations. And this one's coming straight from the inbox. Feedback at sexymarriageradio.com. You can also call us and leave a voicemail, 214-702-9565. If you've got something going on in your world or a question, topic you want us to address specifically, or keep going about some topic we've covered before. We love feedback and interaction because the way we think of our relationship that we have with the nation is it's a relationship. Over the 14 plus years of this show, all the episodes have been steered largely by the nation.
Yeah, the listeners that email in and guide us what they're struggling with or whatever it may be.
So here's an email that came in. It's a long one, so I've condensed it as much as I can, but still trying to pull out the main facts that come in. So pay attention because there's a lot that comes along.
I've got my pen ready to take notes.
So this is from a wife. We've been married 3.5 years and have a 15-month-old and another one on the way. We're great at being friends, teammates, and co-parents, but we're bad at being passionately married. Intimacy has been a major part of pain and heartache since almost the beginning. So here's a little bit of my background. I was raised in the purity culture, secretly struggled with shame around sexuality, but I learned early on that my body got me attention from guys, even though what I really wanted was to feel special and loved. His background is he had a verbally abusive father, emotionally unavailable mother, porn use from a young age. In high school, he was often teased about being gay because his best friends and mainly only friends were girls. After college, he found out his mother had had an affair, and the man he grew up calling dad wasn't his biological father, confirming everything he feared, that he was different and didn't belong. We had sex early in our relationship, got engaged, got married. On our honeymoon, there was one night I had lingerie, was planning on a little role play, and he psyched himself out so much that he couldn't perform. We had sex once or twice after that. Then we got home and it basically stopped. I didn't understand why. I was tan, fit, willing, initiating, and he didn't want me. He also wouldn't talk about it. No matter how much I pleaded or cried, nothing changed. Eventually, I started withdrawing, got some counseling, and learned to appreciate what was still good. Then I got pregnant. And a few months in, I found out he'd been watching porn at work. He denied it at first, lied to my face, and then he finally confessed. What followed was the best stretch of our marriage. He wrote a sincere apology letter, got accountability partners, went to therapy, read books, and we were having more sex than ever, and I was hopeful. Then our son was born, and he stopped everything. There were birth complications, sex was painful for a long time, and even after my pelvic floor therapist gave some specific instructions for how to help, he wouldn't follow through. It's been 15. I've tried everything, being encouraging, being reserved, initiating, stepping back, bringing up the hard conversation. Nothing seems to stick. He's content with what I'll call a friendship marriage. He'd rather numb out with his phone or TV than follow through. At this point, I have almost no desire left. Not that I even have to turn him down. He usually just retreats before it even gets there. He is a wonderful father. He's thoughtful. He buys me flowers. He's a great friend. I'm just so lonely. I know we can't keep going like this. I also want to be honest. I know that my own baggage has made things harder early on, and so that this isn't all on him. And so there is a ton of data in this email that we're going to try to break through over the course of both episodes, both segments. We're going to just kind of walk through segments and sections that jump out to each of us.
Yeah. There's a lot of data, and they're early on in the marriage, and there's so much transition. There's so much baggage, and you're figuring out how to talk to each other. I guess my first question here, can I throw out a question to you?
Let's go. You steer where we go, and then we'll riff on the different areas you see. We'll try it this way this time.
So it sounds like she's thinking of this as like a betrayal. Maybe what makes a friendship marriage feel like a betrayal?
Right, because she's talking about that
nothing's technically wrong, she says, but it sounds like a lot of things are wrong. Or what?
As far
in her
as,
mind.
Absolutely, because I think we have this idea that marriage separates itself because of the intimate areas within it, usually including sex. We can have friendships like what she's describing she has with her husband, you can have with anybody. A good camaraderie, a good friendship, a good companionship, a good co-working relationship, and so there's an element of what we put so much emphasis on, particularly if you're raised in the purity culture, which she's describing. There's a lot of emphasis on, I am finally free to express myself sexually, or learn what I am, who I am sexually, and express that, engage that, experience that. And so now I have the quote unquote permission to do so, where it's blessed in marriage. Right. And so I think there's an element of, we come into marriage with such high hopes that when they aren't all met, it does feel kind of like a betrayal. Like I would change it to, like, it feels like I was sold a bill of goods.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, wait, you hooked me in with this idea because they had sex beforehand, and it's what she was saying in the email. And so it was happening. There was the euphoria of early relationship happening. And then when that wears off, and this is a bait and switch, it feels like. And so that's going to feel like a betrayal. That's going to feel like, wait, something's up with this. Something's not right with this. And so I think there's a element of that. Then you tack on to it the idea of, when we have real close, intimate relationship in marriage, that's where it really does speak to and towards our loneliness component of us as humans. When I have a deeper connection with you as my wife, as my lover, there's a different, that helps speak to the loneliness of the human condition, because it's a more intimate knowing and being known.
Okay. What do you mean it speaks to the loneliness?
So I think
I'm not tracking
because
you.
I believe that loneliness is part of the human condition.
Okay.
I think we were created by God to get our identity and filling and value and worth from him. And then when Adam and Eve sinned, that was cut off. And now we can still have it, but it's not the same. It's not the same communion. Plus there's a loneliness because of free will. I have to choose what I spend time in, who I go deep with, who I connect with, God and otherwise, right? Sure. So I think there's an element of us as humans that are constantly looking for, how do I satisfy this loneliness element I have in my life? And I think marriage is one of those things that speaks to it most closely.
And I guess what I'm trying to read into this from what you're saying is that maybe our expectation is that other person is going to be there to fill that in. Right. Or that's least, what it's meant to be.
At least start speaking towards it, because I don't think it ever gets fulfilled here on earth either. I think agree. That's a part of who we are as humans, that's just a natural component of us that we're going to have to just face, which is why there's important quick side. It's important to learn how to deal with solitude, deal with isolation, and handle myself in those moments and be better. But I think that's what that's what I hear in this is, the loneliness is, I'm missing somebody that does see me, because that's what she's saying. I want to feel special and chosen.
Yeah, I want to feel seen.
And she learned, if I work the right way, if I look the right way, if I live the right way, that draws attention. But attention only goes so deep.
Yeah, that's temporary.
Connection is what she's really longing for. Yeah. And that comes in the intimate side of a marriage, not just the companionship as much.
Got you. So she talks about the honeymoon.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what really happened there, right? Because I brought out the lingerie and kind of a stalemate. And why did that event she brought out in the email? And so, I get it. Why did that matter so much?
Well, this one to me ties directly into, was it last week's episode where it was the email from, I'm pretty sure it was, we have seasons and we don't talk about it. Yes. So the silence is the issue. So this is a common occurrence, actually, more common than talked about on honeymoons, is wedding night and honeymoon sex isn't all what we think it's going to be.
Well, we set up these crazy expectations about what that time frame is going to be. And sometimes it comes
to this level of disastrous where things just don't work for him or her or both. And so this is the biggest part of the story. This is where their story really starts.
You think so? Okay.
I do. It's not the porn. It's not the confession. It's not the baby. It's this. This set up a scenario that exposed both of them in some ways of a deeper motivation, a deeper fear, a deeper, longing, something. And now all of a sudden that got exposed and it went sideways. And then the biggest issue is, because marriage is what makes these stakes more real, they haven't talked about it. They haven't really unpacked what was this? What happened?
Yeah.
Because there's one thing to have it happen. That's a human thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this has happened to me in our marriage of like, yeah, it didn't work. Oh, that feels a little unsatisfying, but it's just this element of like, okay, so that's one thing. But can you talk about it and its impact on both of you at some point is how you grow from it, not just, boy, I'm going to cross my fingers and toes and hope it doesn't ever happen again. I actually have to do some inward looking, some growth, soothing, some confronting. And then I need to do that on a relational level too, because his inability to perform set up a scenario where now what she's longing for all the way, she's got this map of that, I can't push towards that because, you know, and they've never talked about it is what she's saying. It's never been explained or at least expressed. Here's the impact of this, not in an accusatory way.
Yeah.
But here's the dynamic.
Well, and I think this goes back to, you know, she made the comment, I think it was in the email at the end of the honeymoon part of the story. I was tan, I'm in good shape, I was looking good. And that goes back to, it's not all just about the exterior. It's not all just about you. You both have minds that get in the way. So there's something deeper than just that.
Well, and this is why I would say this particular point is the biggest point, because this is where reflected senses of self got exposed. And they're still going on, by the way.
Okay, explain that more.
If he had, and I'm going to bring in the two different other elements that I think we'll probably get to as well, but he had the porn issue, which is pseudo intimacy, pseudo closeness. It's watching, it's seeing, but you're not really involved. The stakes aren't real with porn. You're just an outside observer, and it does things to us, yes. But if you look at it on a whole, what's happening with this is there's no real exposure. There's no real risk on a human intimate level. And for her, she got a lot of feedback that was positive from attention from guys. Again, no real risk. It's just the noticing. It's, you know, we're aware of when people notice us in the day, right? If you put on an outfit you really do like and you head out the door to work or that day and you feel like people gave you second glances, it kind of boosts us. It's like, yeah, you know, they know I like how that feels, right? But that's not a true seeing and being known. It's not a being exposed. It's an outside thing, which has been her journey.
Yeah.
And so they both have a simultaneous similar journey that hit the crux of everything on their honeymoon because they both were exposed. Because she's coming in thinking, here we go. And he's thinking, here we go. And
it didn't work that way.
There it went. What do I do? And so now they've got this dilemma on both of their sides, coupled with the fact that it impacts each other, which makes it even all the more heavy.
Yeah.
Because you can spend so much time if I have a reflected sense of self, I spend all this time reading how it's landing on you, not examining what's going on with me in this. I just gauge from you. That's a reflected sense of self. How are you perceiving me? So it's how am I perceiving you perceiving me? That's a reflected sense of self.
Yeah. I'm going to be unstable, off base the whole time if I'm doing that. So did she say in the email that he went to counseling for his porn?
Yeah. When it was discovered during the first pregnancy, and then counseling happened, he divulged, before the counseling, he divulged everything that was going on, which i.e. intimacy. It's not clean and pretty, but it's real. It's like, let me let you in behind the curtain of my life. That's intimacy, because that's one of the facts we've talked about several times of intimacy is just as likely going to produce uncomfortable feelings as it will comfortable ones.
Yes.
They're still intimate.
Yes.
Because intimate doesn't always mean warm, loving, feeling.
Candlelight.
Right. Right. Naked. So it doesn't mean that at all.
Yeah.
Sometimes intimacy is raw, rough, hurtful. That's intimate. And so, of course, now all of a sudden, because of that discovery, disclosure, and then work that was being done, they would have had a huge uptick.
So did it sound like from her perspective, nothing changed with going to counseling? I mean, why wouldn't why would they still be having the
Well, I
same
think
battle?
it's like, why would it not stick?
Yeah.
Right? Why did we lose what we had?
Yeah.
And a lot of times
We go back to what we're comfortable with, I guess.
there's an element of that, and frankly, and this is where there's a differences in the way the two of them I'm reading into between the lines on this for sure. So, ma'am, correct me if I'm way wrong. Feedback at sexymarriageradio.com. There's differences in how people orient towards life. Some people are really more growth oriented, and some aren't as much, or they're more comfort oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so sometimes what it takes for somebody to truly address and face things in life is major crisis. Discovery of porn usage, major crisis for a lot of people, because usually for most men, that thing's hidden.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's out in the open, and I risk losing a wife that I've got that has our first child, because if he loves being a father and he loves being a husband on some level, then absolutely there's a lot at risk. You know, if he's content with a friendship marriage, you don't want to lose that. That's what I'm reading between the lines there as well.
Sure.
And so that creates this, yeah, I'll deal with this. I'll face this. But then what we often do is some people, that becomes the trajectory that marks a course, the completely different route, the entirety of their life. Other people, that marks the course until the pain goes away.
Fair.
And then it becomes a known, but I haven't really addressed the issue completely. I've just addressed the turmoil and the major volatility in the moment, and it settles down. And then I lose the desire, I lose the interest, I lose the effort that it takes. So it's very common, right? So I have a lot of clients over the years I've done this that feel like we're just now starting to turn a corner, and they stop coming. They're like, wait, we're just now ready to start dealing with what got you here, rather than all of the fallout.
But I'm comfortable now, so
the pain's gone away.
I'm good.
I took an aspirin, the pain's gone away, but I'm not dealing with that tumor that's actually causing all the pain.
Yeah.
And so that's a very common thing, unfortunately, in us as humans. And so one of the ways is just realizing, okay, that's the route he's going. And if that's the data she's got from him also in a lot of other areas of life, he'd rather just check out. Well, okay, how do I address who that guy is, not who I wish he was?
So when you're looking at, because she's the one that emailed in, he's probably not listening. She is. I guess it's looking at what way is she right now, the things that she's listed out in the email. What is it telling us about her? You know, what is her strategy at pursuing him, or pursuing her own heart for that matter?
I think those two we got to separate, because I see it as more the key in the route for her to her own heart is how he is responding to her. Reflected sense of self.
That's what she's doing.
That's what I'm reading. Is because she's done all these different strategies: the encouraging wife, the reserved wife, the books, the prayer, the hard conversations she's attempted to start to and have. And it sounds like most of them, and it's not going to be all of them, but it sounds like a majority of them are aimed at an attempt to manage him and his changing and his involvement and his engagement and his journey.
Which will end up just being frustrating the whole time. It
doubles the frustration. But it also makes it to where I'm not actually facing the risk of what's really going on. She gets to that at the end of the email. I'm like, I don't know how long I'm wanting to do this. That's an honest statement right there.
Sure.
Right. And that we'll unpack that in the extended content. But that's a great kind of place to start our segue in some ways, because that sets up the stage of, if you start looking at it. And so I see this in some of the emails that come in where somebody hasn't necessarily written it out in a whole big long story like that. And then towards the end, they actually get to where they really are.
Here's the meat. Yeah.
Right. And that's what this is. It sounds like, it's like, okay. And I'm going to say that there's nothing necessarily going wrong with this. This is what relationships do, is they push us to the end of our rope a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so when I can be honest with myself about that, and then honest with my spouse about that, I'm in a better position to actually face what's really going on, rather than all the pseudo stuff that we do. Because a lot of what we try to do is actually, I'm just trying to get them to go to the way I want it to be. And then I don't have to look at me. And so I hear with her, she has a lot of things being exposed because of the way she's gained attention, she's not getting it from the person she wants it the most. And so now how does she position herself better to invite that opportunity? That's where we need to go next in the extended content. So smr.fm/academy if you want to join us there.